Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam and I want to make self-growth normal because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. Writing down the chapter names for this book, I thought a few things to myself. One, literally Robert Greene, okay? Like creating a powerful visual presence. That's like 48 laws of power or laws of human nature type of a thing. And two, words that repeat themselves multiple times like charisma, powerful, and sound or communicate really have to give you an idea of what cues is about. What is the big deal with cues? Nonverbal body language? One single cue can predict with 93% accuracy what couples will get divorced. You can predict which doctors will get sued more often. When jurors examine a nonverbal cue, it can completely change a criminal's fate. Speed daters can use nonverbal cues to predict who will exchange numbers at the end of the night. With this book, Vanessa Van Edwards wanted to make these visible cues that predict such huge changes and decisions in our lives and others visible, whether it's in person, on the phone, on video calls, and in some cases, email and chat. The author said that she realized 12 years ago she was sending the wrong cues and missing the ones sent to her. So learning to decode and control her cues changed her life and career, and now she wants to share that knowledge with us. She's had the privilege of doing workshops at companies like Amazon, Microsoft, PepsiCo, Intel, and Google, just to name a few. And what she does is combine the latest research, including research done at her company, The Science of People, real-life case studies of success, and fascinating examples of notable people like Lance Armstrong, Richard Nixon, and Britney Spears. She put out a book about communication called Captivate a few years ago, which I loved, but this one seriously seems to zone in on body language, which should be refreshing. We'll see. I find topics about specific things better than about bigger topics, because in my experience they examine and they teach you a lot more. But just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description of this video. If you buy anything through the links, like this book maybe, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. Chapter 1, Cue for Charisma. People ask themselves, can I trust you? And can I rely on you before making the decision of whether you're charismatic or not? This is what they found. Because let's face it, it's not easy to explain what it is about a person who's charismatic. What makes us charismatic? Well, you know, it's that feeling or something. No, I mean, it's their competence and their warmth. Those two things are really key here. A similar book called The Charisma Myth talks about this, and it said it's about warmth, presence, and power. If I might be reaching here, but it sounds a lot like presence and power might have a little to do with competence. They sound like it the way Vanessa Van Edwards put it. Very often when it comes to warmth and competence, a lot of people are either on one side or the other, and there's not much of an in-between with them. They're very far on one side. They're super easygoing and warm and kind, but they get stepped on constantly and they wonder why that is. Then very often, there are people far on the other side. They're super competent, they're marked as intense or competitive. By some of their peers, maybe standoffish. I'm still looking for one of my own, what the author calls a charisma sweet spot. Chapter 2, How Cues Work, touches upon body language cues that indicate higher levels of focuses on warmth and competence. Chapter 3 is the body language of leaders. I love the part here about the pediatric doctor and his nonverbal approach to working with kids and parents together. Nonverbal cues are something that I learned we're constantly sending to each other and take up between 60 and 90% of communication with each other. Certain parts of this are, I'll have to admit, a lot of what you'll hear in like other body language books. Like, well, you have your palms exposed and it indicates openness. But then you have barriers, like if you're publicly speaking, a podium will block further exposure, making it a subtly less open interaction with your audience. She gives excellent examples though. Like, what would you think of the Statue of Liberty if she held her torch to her chest instead of up high and into the sky? And how in the Last Supper, Jesus had this unusual gesture of one of his palms facing up and the other one facing down, and what this meant and why a lot of people think Da Vinci did this. Van Edwards also does something which is super modern. She also adds video and phone calls to the toolkit here, which is just, it's great. Seriously. It's gonna become more common that a lot of these books talk about that. Chapter 4 is the wow factor. This one was like the wow chapter. I'm just kidding. This one was actually, it was a little weird because she started it by explaining a concept she grasped from Disney. The parks have a rule for every employee where every guest must be treated like a VIP. And then she sort of just used this chapter, it seems, to expand upon the cues of the last chapter. Also, if I had a nickel for every time I heard the word research has shown in this book, I wouldn't have to make these videos, you know? Chapter 5, How to Look Powerful. Vanessa Van Edwards, she seems like a total sweetheart, but I feel like she knows so much about this stuff that it would probably be a little intimidating in some ways to meet her. Like, she would analyze the poo-poo out of your body language, and she probably knows a lot about what's going on in your head that you might not. Again, though, something that really stands out about our company's studies is how big of a range they cover in examples. They pay attention to what so many events or pieces of content have in common, from TED Talks to the most successful and like biggest milestones in football games to sexiest man alive articles. Like, what body language do all of those cover photos have in common? It really shows that they went the extra mile with this. Chapter 6 is how to spot a bad guy and not be one yourself. Honestly, I don't know. As much as I hate to say it, this one was, I didn't find it as engaging as Captivate. It was up there. There are a lot of books I've checked out in the last, 6 months at the very least that were nothing close to as engaging as this one. But this one, it didn't touch Captivate's level of pep and keep listening to this. You know what I mean? It just sounded like, this sounded more like tip after tip after tip, maybe a story here and there. And occasionally you hear like this dynamite tip. Like in this chapter, there was one about looking excited for what you want while trying to make a deal to get it, instead of trying to be neutral or show some sort of a disapproval without knowing. Why hide your excitement? Speaking of which, her narration in the audiobook is very, very, like, you can tell that she does what she's trying to teach us to do. Chapter 7 is Sound Powerful. In this one, the concept of verbal fillers, so... This shouted at me from not the rooftops, but of course. Because, oh my gosh, I use these so often in these videos. Even these videos, and these videos are... And she talks about different solutions to this, which she called non-verbal fillers, like taking a breath instead of saying one of those verbal fillers. You can just take 1 second to think to yourself, what was I going to say? And then continuing, it makes you look more confident and competent. But let's say this doesn't work. The thing is, there are a range of reasons why that might be, and she gives you a solution for each case. Like, it's mind-numbing the amount of research they probably put into this. These people seriously are some kind of mad scientists. Chapter 8 is Vocal Likability. It didn't really hit me how multifaceted Q's was until maybe the previous few chapters. I got some excellent takeaways that honestly you could really only get from someone like Vanessa Van Edwards. There's something in here called vocal invitation, where it's like if you're ordering at the Starbucks drive-thru, the person's like, good choice, yummy. It makes you think, okay, what else? I'm getting more, I know that. It's like I'm so good at choosing things because I'm getting all this positive reinforcement that you wonder, what else should I choose? Also, verbal nudges when you're talking to someone, like, wow, okay, go on, keep going, tell me more, yes, interesting. I say a lot of these actually. Really? I see, etc. You're nudging people to keep talking. This chapter and the next one are extremely useful if you're in sales. You would not believe how many salespeople could not care less about these, but try them for yourself, see what happens, see how you feel, see how your customer feels. Chapter 9 is how to communicate with charisma. The whole section here with charisma in emails, that is a gold mine for anyone who relies on emails and email templates for work purposes. Everything from charismatic subjects to headers, bodies, and endings. That whole thing about the PS from Hotmail and how it contributed to their growth, I found both inspirational and insightful. The perfect combination, might I add. There is very, very, very little that you'll find in both Q's and Captivate. And that's rare. When an author in like one specific area of expertise writes more than one book about something in that field of expertise, it's very rare, this part's unscripted, it's very rare that those two books are gonna have like nothing that you'll hear in both of them. They are literally very, very different from each other, these two books, in terms of content. And chapter 10 is creating a powerful visual presence. The last 3 chapters really seem to have a more corporate fitting background to them. This one was more about branding than anything, where the author stressed the importance and details of non-verbal branding, color associations, which reminded me a little bit of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, and she ended it with some nobility, saying that it would be a fairer world if we didn't need to change the way we act based on the perceptions of others, and it's especially unjust that you're the one who has to counteract someone else's biases. I hope one day these biases will change. Meanwhile, let's work together to change our shared biases. What cues can you counteract? Cues is, it's almost like, almost like 48 Laws of Power. If you rewrote it about body language, moralized it, because, you know, 48 Laws of Power, compressed it into about a third of the length, and just shot it out into the world. It literally says at the end of the book that we just went over 40 different cues. Overall, guys, I have to be honest, I do have sort of mixed feelings, but I will say that books I do dislike for reasons that often have far more to do with message than merit. My ultimate problem with cues is, despite one, the author's wondrous range of unique examples, 2, the author's colorful storytelling, 3, the author's captivating sort of personality that she uses to flavor the book, 4, the jaw-droppingly thorough research that went into it, 5, Van Edwards' unmistakable understanding of teaching, and 6, the book's remarkably distinct subject matter. It's just not the type of book that you can read or listen to once and be like, okay, I get it. Like, it's stunningly dense. I was super surprised. I could be wrong, but I imagine that you'd have to listen to or read it several times to truly grasp a good fraction of its contents, because I know I will. Quotes: if you want someone to stop questioning you, use the question inflection. Powerful people pause purposefully. Direction 1. When I started in sales, I think I told this once in a video before, someone a little bit more experienced told me that what's going to help me is getting down a little bit of a skeleton, like the sales process and everything, understanding the basics, and then beginning to grasp what he called the sneaky stuff. So start with the basics and then learn the more subtle things, because those are going to make up for that other 20% of your performance that's going to take you over the roof, as long as everything else is perfect. But if you're just beginning in sales or business or anything like that, I would hold off on this book, and I'd recommend getting it when you start to notice you're getting good enough at it that you're like, what is it that's going to give me that edge? Or if you're just one of those people who's lacking confidence in general and looking for a few things that can help you with your conversational skills, knowing what to look for in what other people do, etc. Direction 2. If you like this book, please do yourself a favor and check out The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox-Cabane. And anyone who's been watching my channel for years knows exactly what book I'm thinking about right now. Oh, What Everybody Is Saying by Joe Navarro. Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe, but if you have subscribed and you want to turn up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.